critical, purposeful way. And we're going to talk today about how you can do that. So we have seen, everyone is hearing about Egypt and how, the social media is being used, and we see it in our daily lives. Sorry. So Stories That Push for Change is not unique to the digital age. So, even though it's not unique to the digital age, what is new about social media is that it has the power to exponentially leverage the word of mouth. And we have seen this every day in the recent weeks. We've seen events unfold right in front of our computer screen. And actually, we were doing some research online and we found a funny statistic. Only 1% of the tweets that are related to Egypt have actually come from within the country itself. Everything else has been retweets or links to relevant articles, photos, or videos. So we can see that there's a lot of recycled material happening online, and the rate of sharing is really incredible. So that's the power of social media, is that it can spread the message about human rights issues and anything really with speed, energy, and urgency. But at the same time, that speed, energy, and urgency is often at the expense of context, relevance, and accuracy. Although we do really like to put social media in sort of this pedestal in that it can solve a lot of problems and we're getting news everywhere all the time now, but at the same time we have to think that sometimes social media has failed to bring stories in a responsible way. A trivial example would just be like celebrity deaths that we hear almost, every week, every month. Justin Bieber died, Nelson Mandela died a month ago or so. So not all of them are relevant, not all of them are accurate. Another example that I like to draw on is the supposed overturning of Prop 8, which is the legislation to ban gay marriage in California. So in May of 2009, I don't know this personally, I wasn't on Twitter at that time yet, but people online on Twitter were going crazy saying that the ban had been overturned and everyone was so excited and celebrating. And they were sharing links to news sources that were citing this. But if people looked carefully enough, they would have seen that the date on those articles saying that the ban had been overturned actually said 2008. So again, this rush is at the expense of context, relevance, and accuracy. So what we need to do really is we need to reassess what we consume and share online. It's too easy for us to be swept away by the allure of new and digital technologies. And honestly, when we're dealing with human rights issues, something as crucial as women's rights, children's rights, and all these different marginalized communities that are being marginalized, we need to think about social media and how we can use it in a purposeful way. So what we're asking you to do, as Carissa has mentioned, is to think about how you can use social media in a critical, responsible, and effective way. Which is why we've developed a conceptual toolkit for you all. Great. So before we give you some tools to use social media in a purposeful way, we want to introduce you to JHR's framework, the Rights Media Framework. So what is rights media? Rights media is a process of writing, collecting, editing, producing, and distributing media that creates social dialogue on human rights issues. JHR's Rights Media Framework includes 5 elements. These are participation, accountability, non-discrimination, empowerment, and linkages to human rights. What this means is that the human rights stories that JHR trains journalists to write and produce include all of these elements. So for participation, a rights media story ensures that all of those affected by the event, that their voice is included in the story. So in journalism terms, this means going and speaking to those who are affected by the issue. Accountability. The duty bearers and right violators are held accountable. So in a rights media story, it ensures that the journalist has gone and spoken to those who are or could be responsible for the human rights violation. Non-discrimination. We
Rights media does not discriminate by valuing one human right over another or group of peoples over another. Empowerment. What's really important, as we've talked about the goal of JHR, and it's to make everyone in the world fully aware of their rights, so it's really important that rights media has an element of empowerment. It doesn't leave communities feeling like there's no possibilities or hope. So we ensure that the media produced through JHR training and rights media is accessible by the communities that are affected by the issue, and it offers an element of empowerment or hope. And then the last element is linkages to human rights, which is quite important. It's to understand that there's an issue happening in your community is one thing, but to understand that it's a violation of your human rights and that your country has perhaps ratified a treaty but is not fulfilling the rights in that treaty is very important to understand as well. So ensuring that the stories that are, the rights media ensures that human rights stories source human rights doctrines relevant to the event in the community. So that's, we're going to do the media analysis now?
Not yet. So what is rights media? It's your toolkit. Okay, so this is the framework that we're asking you to keep in mind when you are sharing stories about human rights issues, or even if, which we'll touch upon later, if you're creating content that deals with human rights issues.
To deal with social media. So what does this mean to you? How is this relevant to you? We are here to talk to you about how, using social media, you can both be a producer and a consumer of rights media. So this is where you fit in our ripple effect. You, through producing rights media, through social media, you are producing stories. You're also hearing, reading, or watching human rights stories, and then you're sharing stories.
And actually, of course, that could, turn into the ripple effects. That could turn into the, that could go on further to community. The community starts to discuss the human rights issues that people have been sharing, and that'll go on to hopefully push for change. So even though these are the points that we will be addressing today, of course, this is our hope that it will extend further down to the ripple effect. Okay, so looking at a producer, what are some of the platforms in social media that can be used to produce rights media? Yeah?
Well, you could start off, say, at a base level of Twitter or Facebook, but I mean, you can go even a little more high-tech and use something that, this event is using like a Ustream or a live stream and broadcast it live from an event that's taking place.
Okay. And let's think of producing. So Twitter is more, like when you're using Twitter, are you producing rights media? No? So what kind of social media platforms are you producing rights media? Yeah?
Blogging or YouTube.
Great. Great. Fantastic. So something where you're producing a story. And so the idea is that you can use this framework to blog, post video, take pictures to be a rights media producer. And the reason why we think it's important to talk about this in social media is because, as you all know, we're seeing this huge rise in what's being defined as citizen journalism. And we want to be very, very clear that we understand that there is a distinction between citizen journalism and journalism. Journalism as an institution, to give an example, without press credentials, it's very difficult to get in to speak to someone who could be held accountable for a human rights violation. So there is a very specific skill set, knowledge base that comes with the institution of journalism. However, that doesn't mean that in citizen journalism you can't still use the rights media framework, and when you produce your story, think about all of these different elements that could be in your piece. So, what we are going to do, and due to time, due to time, we're going to, each table, give you one element of panel. And we're going to come up with a blogging topic, and your table is going to brainstorm the elements or the things that you could do for that,
For that human rights issue.
For that human rights issue.